I mean, look, if you're not going to win in regulation and hurt the Sens' playoff chances, then the best thing that you can do is lose in regulation. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to be spin zoning the rest of the season the best that I possibly can, or the only way that I know how to, until the final 11 games after tonight play out. We get to game 82, we get to the draft lottery, and we can sit there and hope that the Toronto Maple Leafs finish in the top 5. Probably even at that point, if they don't finish in the top 5, sit here and at least try to spin zone it into something positive, because that's the way I would prefer to look at the Maple Leaf season myself. I want to turn this into something positive the best way that I possibly can. So you know what? You didn't hurt the Sens' playoff chances here tonight. You didn't make it more difficult for them to get there and to keep them away from one of those final wild card spots or anything like that. But what you did do, and we can take away as Leafs fans, is not pick up any points. And when you look at the Tankathon top 5, as we've called it here on the Leafs Nation After Dark show, the Maple Leafs took steps towards getting closer to that top 5. Last night was a setback. You pick up 1 point in a meaningless game, a Friday night game on the first night of a back-to-back, 41 seconds into the overtime. You give up the goal, Nikishin scores, and now you're walking away with a loser point for no reason. But tonight against Ottawa, you didn't even let it get close. I mean, they were up 3-0. You made it a 1-goal game. You showed some compete. You showed some pushback. And then the Sens said, you know what? Fuck this. We're going to win this game. We're going to win it handedly. And they walked away with 2 points in reg. The Maple Leafs walked away with nothing. And for that, I will say that's a positive. I will take the positives from tonight's game because they get closer to a top 5 draft pick. So that's how I choose to view Game 71 against the Ottawa Senators here tonight, dropping this one in pretty favorable fashion to the Ottawa Senators here tonight. So, you know what, Sens fans, you want to jump in the chat and you want to troll, you want to get in here and you want to give it to Leafs fans tonight, go for it. Try your best, give it your best effort. But as Bondi Sports Center says in the chat, beautiful tank job. You know what? Beautiful tank job it is. 0 points, convincing loss, walk away with nothing, and at the end of it all, we can just sit here and say, you got closer to a top 5 draft pick. So that's how I will choose to view it. But on tonight's show, we're going to break down everything that happened. We'll take callers if you guys want to jump in here. We'll read the super chats. We'll read what you guys have to say in the chat. We'll do the smelling salts. We'll get to our play of the game, our grade of the game, the Tankathon towards the end of the stream as well. We'll do it all here tonight on the postgame show. Tonight's show, as always, is a presentation of Bet365. And hockey fans, check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. You must be 19 plus, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. We'll continue to break everything down, and I just want to get some things out of the way off the top before we go further, because some people here in the chat might be new, some people might be coming back for the first, second, third time here, and they don't really know what's going on. So let me lay the ground rules, or at least a basic outline of how tonight's show, as always, the post-game shows will go, but specifically here tonight. I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on how this game went. But I want to open this thing up to you. It's not just about me and my thoughts and my opinions of the games. It's about the fans, Leafs fans. What do you guys think about what happened? So as the course of the show goes on here, I'm going to read what you guys are saying in the chat. If you have questions, if you guys have opinions, I will continue to read what pops up there from you guys. But if you want to make sure that you get more involved in the show, you want your questions or your opinions or whatever it is heard more than everybody else, there's 2 ways to do so. 1, later in the show here, we're going to open up the Zoom call link. You guys want to give your thoughts, you want to call into the show, well, I will send a link into the chat. You guys can click on the link, you call into the show, whether you want to rant for 5 seconds, for 30 seconds, if you want to stay on for 5 minutes and you want to give your thoughts, you want to ask questions, the Zoom link will be pinned there. You guys can call into the show. You give me your thoughts. You let me know how you feel, and we can go back and forth, or you can just come in here. You can give your thoughts. You can get the hell out if that's what you prefer to do. The other way will be through super chats. And for those who don't know, proceeds from our super chats go to Sick Kids Charity. It's an amazing cause that we have here on the post-game show. as well as here on the channel in general. I mean, dating back to last season, we raised over $4,400 going to Sick Kids charity. So you guys continue to send in those super chats. It goes to an amazing cause. Proceeds from the super chats go to Sick Kids charity, Canada's #1 research-intensive children's hospital, #3 in North America. All you have to do to get those super chats in, you click that little rectangle that you see there in the live chat. There's a $sign in it. You click on that. You type the message you want to send. You select the amount that you want to send. You send it off, and I will read every single super chat that comes in here. Those that came in before the show, those that come in throughout the course of the show, all the way until the very end. And then the final thing I've got to remind you guys here about what happens on the show is the smelling salts. So we're already over 100 viewers here tonight on the post game, but for those of you who are interested in just making me do dumb shit, which a lot of you guys seem to be on a nightly basis, the easiest way to have that happen is the smelling salts feature. Every set of 50 likes, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, whatever it is, you guys like the stream, I do the smelling salts. Every set of 50, I will do the smelling salts. So keep liking the stream, keep subscribing to the channel, all that stuff. All of it helps out here on the post game and makes this thing more interactive. So let me start at the very, very beginning. And when I say very beginning, I'm talking about what happened in warm-up for the Toronto Maple Leafs here tonight. The way that this season has gone, the way that things have transpired here for the Maple Leafs this year, the least surprising thing of all time is one of your superstar players in William Nylander hitting your goaltender in the neck in warm-up, having him go to a local hospital to undergo further evaluation, and having your backup goaltender for the game have to come in on the second night of a back-to-back without prepping to be the starting goaltender and have to get thrust into action here tonight against the Senators. Joseph Woll was under scrutiny from Craig Berube last night. We talked a lot about that. It's been made a big deal of online here over the last 24 hours since the conclusion of last night's game, and everybody talked about all of that. I gave my opinions on Berube's thoughts on Joseph Woll's play and how I thought it was just an unfair comment from Craig Berube, given the fact that, you know, there's probably a lot more problems, a lot bigger problems ahead of Joseph Woll before he even has to face any shots. But regardless, Joseph Woll comes into this one. He had played 5 of the last 6, I should say, before tonight's game. Now he goes into this one and he has to play 6 of 7. Whatever. We can make what we will of that. We know all the stats about, Marty Brodeur played every night and, date back to the old days and all the goaltenders that played every single game. I get it. I get there was a lot of guys who played every night, but that's not the current day NHL. That's not how this happens. The fact that it is a superstar player in William Nylander who hits your goaltender and takes him out of the game with a high, or takes him out of the potential to play the game, I should say, with a high shot that catches him in the neck. I can't even be mad about it. It's ridiculous. It's stupid, but it's like hilarious. And I'm not saying hilarious because Anthony Stolarz got hurt, but it's hilarious because of the calamity of errors that have taken place for this Maple Leafs team all season long. You look at the mismanagement of assets in the summer. You look at the failure in terms of what you got back from Mitch Marner and not getting enough back. You look at the roster construction and just not having enough guys up front on the top 6. You look at the injuries that took place. You look at guys quitting on the coach. You look at the coach that you had in place and the deployment that you saw from those guys. And then you just throw in here, on top of all of that, on top of the goaltenders not starting healthy, on top of Stolarz having to play so many games to open this season, you just throw in there that it's a superstar player who catches Anthony Stolarz. And I see in the chat here, 6 1/3 says, Zach, stop. It was an accident. You are overblowing this. Leads with an accident in warm-up, LOL. I'm not trying to overblow this, and I'm not trying to make a big deal about what Nylander did. I don't care, like, in all seriousness, I don't really care who it was, or I'm not mad at William Nylander for what happened in that situation. I just think the combination of events is hilarious given the clown show of a season that we've seen take place on the ice. It's not, a Dakota Joshua who catches him. It's a William Nylander who's been called out for his play, who takes out Anthony Stolarz, who's supposed to go in there, who's supposed to be the guy here tonight for the Maple Leafs and maybe play spoiler to the Ottawa Senators, who takes Anthony Stolarz out. Now you have to see Joseph Woll. It's just a very Leafy thing is my point. I'm not trying to make a big deal about the situation. I'm not trying to make a big deal about what Willie did. I'm not blaming him for anything. It's a dumb accident. Anybody could have done that. It's just the most Leafy thing of all time to have William Nylander, one of your best players, probably your best player in the lineup here throughout the rest of the season with Austin Matthews out, be the guy who injures Anthony Stolarz and has him going to the hospital right before the game can even start. It is one of, if not the leafiest things of all time that can happen. I don't care who it was, how it happened, just the fact that it is your best player and your sharpshooter who takes out your goaltender in warm-up just sums up what this season has been. Every time you take a step forward, you just take 1 or 2 steps backwards and you can't find a way to go anywhere. That is what this season has been and how this season has gone. So it's just a ridiculous start. It's a ridiculous way to get this Saturday night off and running here against the Ottawa Senators. And it's very Leafy of it to go this way. It's very, very Leafy for that to have taken place here tonight in this game against Ottawa. Now, on to the game itself. Did Joseph Woll have the best night here for himself? No, he didn't. Would the criticism for Craig Berube from last night's game be much more applicable to tonight's game? Yes, probably. I think that this is one of those games where you look at and thought, hey, you know what? If you got some better goaltending here in this one, you're probably more in it. Did you deserve to win or deserve to get a point? Like, take away, do you want them to get points? Just in general, did they deserve to win? Did they deserve to get points? I'd say closer to yes if you have some better goaltending than what you had here tonight. But still, the answer is no. Joseph Woll did not play very well tonight. I think he had some opportunities that to make some saves that he just didn't. Am I going to blame him for this loss? No, I'm not. I'm not going to blame him for the loss and the way that this game went here tonight. But he could have played better, and tonight is one of the first nights in the last couple of weeks that I could look at Joseph Woll and say, hey, you know what? The team actually probably did need more from you, which is kind of, again, a very hilarious comedic sequence of events, given that last night after the game against the Carolina Hurricanes, one of which that I think a lot of Leafs fans looked at and said, you've played the guy 5 of your last 6 games. He played a really good game for you. The fact that you're calling him out is a little bit ridiculous. To then carry that over into tonight's game where he actually probably could have stopped more and probably could have given you guys a few more saves on some of those situations. It's probably like, yep, tonight would have been much more applicable for that statement, but the statement comes last night and not tonight. So we'll be interested to see what Berube's comments are. We'll be interested to see what Joseph Woll has to say about this one. Maybe even William Nylander and his thoughts in this game after he was the one who took out Anthony Stolarz, but we'll talk about all of that as we do get new information on tonight's postgame and the reactions that come out from Maple Leafs coaches and players following this one. Now, the other thing here, as I was kind of just jotting down and trying to keep track of throughout the course of the game, because a lot's been made of what's happened this season with shots on goal and how the Maple Leafs have handled the shots on goal situation. The Leafs cannot find a way to generate more opportunities than their opponents. Even beyond opportunities, the just flat out surface level shots on goal number that a lot of times probably doesn't mean too much. At this point in the season, it really, really does mean much more. 53 games now here of 71. The Maple Leafs have been outshot in games. And in most of those games, it's come at a significant deficit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yet again here tonight, another absolute whomping on the shots category, 44-14 in favor of the Ottawa Senators. No matter what you do out there, no matter what your goaltender does, no matter the chances you can generate, quality-wise, if you are being outshot 44-14, it is fucking pathetic. Now, much like what happened last night, the Maple Leafs started off more even keel with what happened with the Ottawa Senators and what happened with the Carolina Hurricanes last night. In both of those games, throughout the first 5, 10, 12 minutes, it was fairly even. You were generating at a pretty even pace. But then what you see happen as the game goes on is a problem that has been taking place throughout the course of the entire season, and that is the inability for the Maple Leafs to generate second, third, and fourth chance opportunities. And I'll get to what happened on the Sens side in a moment and how that compares to what the Maple Leafs did, but how many times do you watch the Leafs get in transition, get in a rush, get in an odd man situation, they get one chance, or they fail to get that chance on net, where they go in on a 3-on-1, the play gets broken up, there's no shot on goal, they go in on a 2-on-0, they overpass the hell out of the thing, the puck ends up in the corner and they're having to retrieve it. And then after that situation, they don't recover the puck. You get a shot on goal or you lose the puck. Now you have to go pick it up in the corner and you're losing the race to the puck. You're losing the battle in the corner. You're losing the battle on the boards. You're losing the open ice battle as well. It happens far too often for this Leafs team here right now, where they cannot generate anything beyond the first chance opportunity. It is hard enough for them to get up ice in transition. It's hard enough for them to get up ice through the blue line into the offensive zone. And then when they do, they can't sustain any type of pressure. It's one of the biggest issues that they've had all season. And we can talk about their offensive ability, and it all kind of ties in. You can talk about their transition game. Again, it ties in. But when you look at the shots on goal factor of things, so much of that has to do with the Maple Leafs' inability to maintain that second, third, fourth chance opportunity where they just give it up and it's the other team going the other way. And I don't say this to take away from anything Ottawa did here tonight or the Carolina Hurricanes did tonight, but look at what happens. The Leafs go in on an odd man. They get a shot or they barely get a shot off. Nothing comes high danger. Sens pick it up, they go down the other way, they're on an odd man themselves, and they get that first shot off. Okay, now they get one. Let's just look at it from a shots on goal perspective of how those battle out. They get one, now they've kind of upped you because you didn't get any at the other end on your 2-on-1 situation, so now they've picked up one here versus your nothing. But then what they do is they go and win the battle in the corner off the rebounds. Or what they do is they win the race, they win the battle to the front of the net, and then they pick up the second chance opportunity and they get a shot and they force your goaltender into another tough save. They force him into a tight situation where he's got to really battle for that second save opportunity. So often it happens that this Leafs team will go down one end, generate nothing, or generate one weak attempt on the net that doesn't force anything high danger, doesn't force the goaltender into a difficult spot, and a goaltender on the other side that you could have looked at here tonight for the Ottawa Senators and probably taken advantage of if you did put some pressure on him, but the Maple Leafs failed to, and then right back the other way every single time where the Sens are generating chances up the ice, in transition, on the rush, getting that first chance, and then if they don't get it on the first chance, generating on the second, the third, the fourth attempt opportunity. That has happened more so than just in the vacuum of tonight's game. That has been extrapolated over the entire course of this season. Every game this year, for the most part, it has been the other team outnumbering you on chances, outnumbering you on shots, outnumbering you in transition opportunities, and the Leafs have no answer for it. I think a significant part of that is the compete level that these guys have. I think a significant part of that is the lack of speed that this team has. And It's a serious problem. This is where I have a problem with the debate that's taking place online, where I land somewhere in between people, where there's one group who says, yes, you see what you're talking about. That's why you need more speed and more skill. And then I look at the other people who are saying, you see what you're talking about? That's why you need more compete, more battle. What the problem is that you need to find the guys who can meet you in the middle to generate both. The Florida Panthers are a team that I look at and think, you know what? That's a team I'd like to emulate. The Dallas Stars are a team that I look at and think that's a team I'd like to emulate. The same thing goes for what you're seeing out of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Are they the fastest teams in the world? No, they're not. Are Dallas and Tampa the most mean, aggressive teams in the world? No, they're not. The Florida Panthers I'll exclude from that conversation because I think they're significantly more mean than other teams. But what each of those teams do is find a marriage of speed, skill, and compete level that the Maple Leafs have yet to find. And that's where I think that the Leafs fan debate that takes place online kind of gets lost here. And I think that's where people in this market kind of lose the plot a little bit on the speed and skill versus compete level era of this team. And what I mean by that, and I'll relate it all back to tonight, is we used to see this team, specifically when you get to the playoffs, that was built with speed and skill and, oh, wow, we have so much talent in our bottom six in the Kyle Dubas era. There's the Kerfoots and the Nick Patans and the Dennis Malgins and the Pierre Engvalls and the Ilya Mikheyevs and on and on and on of these skilled, speedy players. But what they all lacked when it came down to the nitty-gritty of things in the playoffs was the level of compete. They couldn't go out there. They couldn't battle in the corners. They couldn't win open ice battles. They couldn't win net front battles. And their ability to generate at any level when the going got tough was completely diminished. What a lot of Leafs fans, I think, and where people are getting a bad rap for things, and myself included, and where I want to kind of clear my name a little bit, and some for the other people who I know a lot of them are participating in the chat here tonight, wanted was not just some big, mean, heavy team. They wanted the guys that you had to just battle more. And I think some of that started at the top of your lineup with your Matthews and your Marner and your Nylander and your Tavares. And you wanted them to dig their heels in a little bit more. But you look at those skilled guys, they didn't have the ability. So people here in this market said, we've got to kind of get some more of that. And I think people were justified in that opinion. But then what happened was a course correction that was way overdone. And I think it's evident in a game like this here tonight. You play the Ottawa Senators. I don't think this was the best game for the Senators. Not that this was a bad game for Ottawa here tonight, but I don't think this was one of those banner nights for the Sens where they walk away and said, what a hell of a game we put forth there. You could look at the response that they had once they had gotten up and the Maple Leafs tightened things up. And I will give them full marks for what they did to respond to that, open back up the lead, take the lead again, take a commanding lead again, sorry, I should say, and then close this thing out. But the door was open. You could have continued to fight. But what ends up happening is a lack of compete and a lack of speed and skill. You brought in guys who combined to be the heaviest average team in the entire NHL, sitting at 208 pounds, heavier than every other team in the league. You are significantly slower. You are significantly older. And on top of that, you lack the battle that you already lacked anyways. So now instead of being able to at least get to the puck and then lose the battle, you're not even close. You can't maybe luck your way into a second or a third chance opportunity just because you can get to the race or win the race in some of those situations. You just don't have that. You're too old, you're too slow, you're too heavy, you can't get there, you can't create that, and then it gets snuffed out. And we saw that so many times tonight. How often did you see a point shot get deflected to the corner by Linus Ullmark that was picked up by the Senators? No compete, Nobody within a 5 to 10 foot vicinity of the players who are picking up pucks. They transition up the ice quickly. They get it to a winger. The defenseman can't be there because he's got to back up, because he's got to adjust because he doesn't have enough speed. The Sens go back down the other way. They've got a 2-on-1. They've got a 3-on-2. They've got a 3-on-1 situation. And now your defenseman, Joseph Woll, is having to face an odd man rush going back down the other way over and over and over again. And I mean, I can take it even further than that in some of the situations where it's not just the chances that are created in a vacuum, where it's like, oh yeah, the Sens went up the other way and they had a 3-on-1 and then they got a second chance opportunity off a rebound, or they went up the ice in transition and Dylan Cousins hits a stop back and he hits Ridley Gregg in the middle, who goes down, and you have nobody coming back in transition. But sometimes it ends up happening where you've pulled your goaltender and you have Ekman Larsson, who gets an errant stick into the feet of Amadio and sends the Senators to a power play while you're down 5-3 in the game and you're pushing with your empty net. It's so often that they get caught on penalties and then they force themselves to penalty kill for 2 minutes. It's so often they get caught in transition, or they get down into their own end and they're forced to ice pucks and keep the same lineup out there. Or they finally get out of their zone after a long battle in their own zone where they can't get the puck back, they can't close down cycle plays, they can't stop chance generation from the other team. They cross the red line, they've got to dump it in, now they got to change, there's no recovery, there's no regroup, there's no picking up the puck again, and now here comes the other team back down the other way and they're transitioning for an opportunity yet again. This has happened far too often, not just tonight, but this season as a whole, and it's frustrating. It's tough to watch. And that's part of why I look at this team and think an overhaul of the personnel that you have here is much needed, but an overhaul of just the culture and the identity of the group is much more needed as well. On the topic of the culture of the team, we are just over 1 week removed from Radko Gudas kneeing your captain, getting suspended for 5 games, and ending your captain's season. A situation in which nobody responded. Everybody looked around, looked up at the ceiling, pretended they didn't see it, looked around at the next guy and said, well, you've got it, right? And nobody did. The coach calls them out. The GM calls them out. The media calls them out. The fans call them out. They took enough criticism for the incident. Sure, they came out and they were on fire in the third period. They were hitting everything that moved. And then the next couple of games, we saw an elevated level of compete from this group where they really kind of started to show, hey, we've got this in us. We're different than the picture that you've painted of what our group is. And then they kind of let it slip. And that's why I looked at this team and tried not to dig too much into what happened over the last week of hockey following the incident against the Anaheim Ducks and say, nope, that's what the team is. Yep, they've responded and they've learned. I had some sense of optimism to say maybe they can learn from this lesson. Maybe they'll follow the footsteps of the Buffalo Sabres. Maybe they'll look at this and say, hey, the Sabres had a similar situation happen last season. They had a conversation and they said, this can never happen again. We're going to cut things off right here, right now, and this won't be the case going forward. It happened for a little bit, and then it's disappeared. The intensity, the level of play, the pace of play has significantly dropped off since last Sunday against the Minnesota Wild, where we saw back-to-back games, one of which against the Buffalo Sabres, one of which against Minnesota, where we thought they're showing something. It carried over into Tuesday night's game into the Islanders, where we saw Morgan Rielly fight McLean, and we all thought, hey, they're showing something there. He bumps into Wall. It's a nothing play. He hits him, and hey, Morgan Rielly's got to stick up for his guy. He's got to jump in there, and he's got to stand up for him. And it's like, okay, you know what? At least you showed me something. Maybe you've got something. But then I watched this game here tonight, and I'm not saying that Tim Stützle did this with any malicious intent, but Stützle bumps into Joseph Woll. Does he get a penalty? Yes, he does. But I don't give a fuck about your power play. I don't give a fuck about paying them back on the scoreboard or getting them in the standings with the points. What I want to see is this Maple Leafs team go balls to the wall, lose their shit, and jump the guy. And it's pathetic because What you have is a group of pathetic titans. You've assembled a group of monsters who are big and heavy and are supposed to be physical, who have no guts and no grit to their game. And you saw that here tonight when Phil Myers, who's standing right beside Tim Stützle after he bumps into Joseph Woll, stands there and gives him a little, hey, don't do that. That's not good enough, Phil Myers. That's not good enough, Maple Leafs. I'm sorry, but that is completely pathetic. This is a group of pathetic titans. I don't give a shit how tall you are, how big you are. You don't have the nuts to back it up. And unfortunately for this team, no matter how big or heavy they've been over the last 10 years, that has been the case for this group since then. And it has carried over into this season, and it is pathetic. It is inexcusable, it is unacceptable, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing. I watched that situation take place with Stützle. This is not me putting anything against Stützle. This is not me saying it was malicious or he tried to hurt him in any way. I don't believe that. The reality is he bumps into Joseph Woll. You are one awkward bump on your goaltender away from having an emergency backup goaltender, an e-bug, step into the game and have to play in place of Joseph Woll if he goes down awkwardly. And yet Phil Myers stands there, looks at Stützle run him over, looks at Joe Woll laying on his back and goes, well, we're getting the power play. That's good enough. No, it's not. Your season is over. Fuck the 2 points. Fuck the power play goal. Fuck the opportunity to get them back on the scoreboard. Get them back right then and there. I'm not talking about taking the guy's eye out. I'm not talking about injuring Tim Stützle. But I'm talking about grabbing the guy by the collar and saying, you can't do that and you won't do that again. And yet this team is gutless, is cowardly, is pathetic, and is embarrassing. And that gets shown here yet again tonight. The whole speech, the whole shebang that we saw take place of True Living calling players and being frustrated and, Craig Berube talking about it every day and guys in that room being embarrassed with what happened was thrown out the window just over a week later. Stützle bumps into Woll, and Phil Myers goes, don't do that, Tim. That is fucking embarrassing. You are 6 foot fucking whatever, and the most that you can do is a one-hand push to the guy's shoulder. Grab the guy, get in his face, breathe down his neck and tell him you'll never fucking do that again and rattle him around. Fuck your 2 points. Fuck your place in the standings. Go out there and send a message. And yet this team shows yet again they don't have the goddamn kahunas to do it. They just don't have that ability in them. It's embarrassing. That was the one thing that really stood out to me here tonight, outside of the play, because we know what they are in terms of what they bring to any type of game. That was the one thing that stood out to me where it's we just went through this 1 week ago. We heard every single quote from Berube and True Living and the management and all that about how embarrassed and frustrated they were with what took place. And how the level of compete had really upped and guys learned their lesson and they wouldn't let that happen again. They have no balls. And that was on display yet again tonight against the Ottawa Senators and specifically in that incident against Tim Stützle. And again, just to be clear here, embarrassing. It is completely embarrassing and it is a perfect encapsulation of what this team has been for the last 9 years, going on 10 here now, of this Matthews Nylander era. It's embarrassing, it's pathetic, it's frustrating, it's upsetting, it's very annoying. A lot more to get to here tonight on the postgame show. Let's open up the call lines to people here in the chat as well. Just a quick reminder, if you guys want to call into the show and give your thoughts, the link to call in there is pinned at the top of the chat, so click on that link. As well, the other way to participate here tonight would be a couple different ways. One would be through Super Chats. You send in a super chat, I will read every single super chat that comes in, whether it's a frustration, if it's just a comment, if it's a question. I'll read all of them. I will dig into everything that comes through here tonight on the postgame show. So I'm curious to see what you guys think and how you guys feel about this team. The other way would just be to fire off your comments in the chat, and I will continue to read what's happening in there as well, which a lot of people seem to kind of be on the same page as me about the incident that took place and the lack of heart and guts that this team has here. So I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one who feels this way. And it's not really like a yelling and screaming matter. It's, I think, something that we all have kind of known for a while that has been lacking in this game. But yet again, it gets put on display for the team here tonight. And it only took a week and 3 days for this team to then show it here yet again. The other way here as well will be to hit that like button. We did hit 50 likes here on the postgame show, so the more you guys like, the more smelling salts that I will do here on the postgame. We have 50 likes here already, so our first set of smelling salts will be done for you guys. Thank you guys for liking. We get this thing up to 100. We'll do more, but here's the first set. You know, from the Maple Leaf standpoint, the snoozer that they put forward tonight on the ice, I'm thankful that you guys are liking the stream because I need the smelling salts to get myself woken up for the bullshit that we just saw take place by the Maple Leafs here in this game. The Sens side of things was at least a little bit more exciting, and I think as a Sens fan, you're probably a little bit more engaged in what you saw here on the ice tonight. But yeah, I could use those smelling salts. So keep liking the stream. If you guys have more thoughts on tonight's game, make sure to send those in via super chats or call into the show via the link that you do see attached there at the top of the live stream here on YouTube. You guys send those in. I will continue to do the smelling salts, so make sure to get those in. Let's talk about a positive here tonight before I flip into some more negatives, because I think that'll probably rattle people, and I understand why, but some more positives from tonight. I thought Easton Cowan looked pretty good in this game. Did he blow my socks off? Did I think that Easton Cowan jumped out as this is a bona fide top 6 player, a guy that you're going to have in the NHL no matter what, no matter how good the team is? No, I didn't take that away from Easton Cowan's game here tonight. But you know what I did? I looked at his game. I looked at the plays he made. I look at the 2 points that he put up here. The fact that he ends up accumulating 18 minutes of time on ice. And for that, I'm happy because I think this is a guy who needs some more confidence. He needs some more opportunities to play. He needs some more opportunities to play with some better players. And I think that utilizing the end of this wasted season, getting him in those right situations, getting him in with better players is the perfect time to do so. You don't have to risk, those learning opportunities where it can cost you in the standings in regards to, well, we're trying to make the playoffs, like what happened in that game against Detroit where you went to overtime and he made a bad play that Seider picked up and went the other way. But, you can at least look at it and think, I'm willing to accept some mistakes. You don't want this guy to just get handed opportunities, even if he makes dumb decisions and bad plays and all that kind of stuff. You don't want it just given to him because that's not how the NHL does or should work. But the more opportunities he's been given, the more chances in this lineup that he's given to play with better players, I think the better he's looked. And I think the more comfortable and confident that he's looked. And to me, that's a positive. He has a 2-point game here tonight against the Sens, one of which comes on the assist of the John Tavares goal, one of which comes from his own goal there to make it a 1-goal game, making it 3-2 for the Maple Leafs. And I like what he's bringing to the table right now. Is there some stuff in his game that he can do better in terms of decision making? Is there stuff he can do better when it comes to the physicality element of winning battles and not turning pucks over and being harder on his stick? 100%. And I think that in a candid moment, he'd probably be the first to admit that, hey, I need to be better in some of these situations. I need to do X, Y, and Z better to be an everyday NHL player. But From the other side of things, where you look at creativity, where you look at chance generation, where you look at some of the playmaking ability from Easton Cowan, it's all developing. And it's all getting better every single night. It's getting better in every opportunity he's getting. And for that, I'm happy. I think that is a step in the right direction for Easton Cowan. I think continuing to play him for 15 to 18 to 20 minutes a night here in the NHL with John Tavares, with William Nylander, which I'll touch on in a moment, but I think those are the right decisions for this group here right now to continue to give him those chances, see what he can do, see how much he learns and develops. And just to kind of circle back to what I just said there about the chance that he got with Nylander and Tavares, I kind of like that. You know, you look at Cowan, I thought he was creating tonight. I thought he was generating some chances. I thought he looked pretty good. I thought, it's not his best game of the season, but I thought that there was enough done by Cowan to warrant more playing time. And Berube rewarded him, I should say, by playing him with John Tavares and William Nylander. And whether you want to view that as a demotion to Nick Robertson or you want to view that as some type of promotion to Easton Cowan, where now he gets to play with Tavares and he gets to play with Nylander, it's up to you. I'm going to choose to view this as a combination of both, where you look at Cowan and say, you deserve to be in this top six. We're going to keep you up there. We're going to leave you on that first line. We're going to leave you with JT, but we're also going to throw Nylander in, where you were playing with Nick Robertson, who I think needs to continue to up his production. I don't mind what he brings to the table, but the production from him hasn't been there. So you swap in William Nylander, and I think it's a pretty good situation for Easton Cowan. Play with a superstar in the NHL, play with a veteran, very mature, responsible, level-headed guy who can teach him how to be a pro. You put him on that line. I think he can learn a lot hockey-wise. I think he can learn a lot skill-wise from those guys. And I think that Easton Cowan can continue to develop here with the Maple Leafs if he's put in that right situation and given those opportunities. So, again, that's another guy that I look at here tonight for this team and say, hey, kudos to you for moving him up. Kudos to Easton Cowan for the opportunities that he had created for himself in this game tonight. With that, let's get to our best bet segment. Not so positive for us on the best bets, but hockey fans, you're tired of waiting for the end of the game to get paid? Well, I'm tired of waiting for the end of each of these games, or tired of waiting for the next game, because every single night it feels like it just gets longer and longer and longer. The end of the season, although it gets closer, it feels like it gets farther away watching this frustrating mess. But regardless, that's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, has 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey moves fast, and now with 3-goal early payout, there's one less thing you have to wait around for. Bet365, download the app and see what early payout's all about. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has concerns about gambling, visit connectsontario.ca. Terms and conditions apply. I see in the chat, Nicholas B says, Zach is going to Cancun as soon as the season ends. No, I will not be. I will be staying here. I'll be continuing to work and cover the rest of the NHL playoffs on the sheet with Jeff Merrick over on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. So make sure to give a subscribe over to the Daily Faceoff, because that's where you can continue to find me and more NHL coverage outside of the Maple Leafs once the Maple Leaf season is over. So I will still be here at least until after free agency, until after the draft lottery and the NHL draft and the free agency period. I'll still be here. I'll still be working. So nothing will really change for me other than the fact that, on your Tuesday and Thursday nights, I won't be sitting here doing Leafs post games. I'll probably be out and about on the golf course, because that is where I love to be. And once the weather turns nice and the opportunity arises, oh baby, I can't wait to get out there. Our best bets for tonight went poorly. We took a chance on the Maple Leafs to come big here tonight, and I thought that a guy like William Nylander would step up and elevate his game. And It didn't turn out positively for us as Leafs fans. I bet two things: Nylander anytime goal and the Maple Leafs money line. Bet Nylander anytime at plus 190. I thought coming off the goal last night, he'll be fired up coming into tonight. Maybe he just got shaken up by having injured Anthony Stolarz in warm-up, but it wasn't the case. William Nylander goes goalless here in this one, so we lose a half unit on that. And then we bet on the Maple Leafs money line just to win this one in general, whether in reg or in OT, in a shootout. I didn't give a shit. I thought the Maple Leafs would show up and have a little bit more compete. I also think that probably having Anthony Stolarz in net would have helped, just some fresh legs. Not won them the game, let me be clear, but at least given them some bit of positivity that they could have taken in this one and maybe helped them be a little bit more competitive. Instead, he gets injured in warm-up, and the Maple Leafs continue to fall flat on their face. So they lose this one. We lose a half unit. That is a negative 1 unit here tonight on the pregame / postgame show. That brings us down 1.35 units on the season, and that is a negative 3% ROI here on the year. Tough go for us here on the pregame / postgame show. It has been an absolute battle, but we will continue to keep things going. Let's get to some of these super chats before I get to the first caller, who I see is waiting in the line there. Let's go to Tom Robbins. Thank you, Tom, for the super chat. Tom says, this is not a retool, but a 5-year rebuild. Well, let me be clear. Could this be a rebuild here in the summer? Yes, it very, very well could. I think you are just as close to being a competitive playoff team next season as you are to being a bottom 5 team in the NHL for the next 3. It's going to be very dependent on what Nylander and Matthews want to do. It's going to be very dependent on the direction that MLSE chooses to go in. And it's also going to be very dependent on what Brad Treliving is capable of doing in this summer. Who becomes available? Who is he willing to spend the money on? Who is he not? And how creative can he get in terms of his trades? But I think you're very close. The only pushback that I'll give you on the 5-year rebuild is if you get somebody competent in as the GM, if you can bring somebody smart in as the president, and you can bring in smart hockey voices to be around him and give some type of advice, I think you can set yourself up positively to get this thing spun back in the right direction sooner rather than later. And I know that's an optimistic approach, and I know that this year's pick and next year's pick are locked up by the Bruins and the Flyers. And I know that if you hand away the pick this season, or you pick the pick this season, you hand away a pick next year, and then it pushes another one to 2028, and you lose that pick. I understand that. But if you go in the right direction, if you're going to rebuild and you find a way to offload Nylander and Matthews, and you get value back for the players that you want to get off of this team and get that value back for, I think you can set yourself up to start heading back in the right direction very soon. So I will put a little bit of contingency on that. The super chat comes in from TMB Sports. TMB says, as much as I love Willie, he proves Don Cherry right about Swedes being all skill and no grit. Look, man, there's a lot of Swedes who do bring grit to the game. Nylander, he can do it at times in his own way. Does he do it every night? No, he doesn't. And I think that's the frustration myself and a lot of Leafs fans have with William Nylander. This one comes in from Cass RWR. She says, on a side note, I wish I was as good looking as you. Well, Cass, thank you. I appreciate the compliment, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really view myself that way, but appreciate the compliment nonetheless. Let's go to our first caller here on the line. Let's welcome to the program, Chris. Chris, what's up tonight, Chris?
Hey, Zach, how's it going?
It's all right, Chris. On one hand, frustrated about the fall off and compete level as the game went on, but on the other hand, happy that you get a little bit closer to a top 5 pick in the lottery. So I'm kind of in the middle, and I kind of just feel numb to all of this, if that makes sense.
I hear you. I just want to say I love the show.
Thank you.
Talk about Berube a little bit.
Okay.
I'm really, really disappointed in Berube, who was supposed to be the accountability and responsibility coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's been total shutdown. And I just don't like the decisions he makes, especially like sitting out Pizzetta in a game like today, where we need energy, and you've got guys like Yarncroc playing and Lorentz, and I just don't know. Like if Berube had coaches like himself, he wouldn't be working in hockey right now. Because he was a great enforcer when he played. I loved watching him way back when he played for the Leafs. And for some reason, I don't understand how he can ice a lineup with no fortitude, no balls. The guys have no balls. And I'm not talking about guys, like one guy or two guys, but I'm just saying like there's just no balls in it. And at least Pizzetta goes out and will throw his body around, and I don't know. It's an element that's been missing all year long,
Yeah.
and it's sickening to me.
Yeah, on the Pizzetta thing in particular, what I'll say is I was talking to somebody today who is familiar with Pizzetta and his days in the OHL. And, I played against Pizzetta in minor hockey, and I saw him a lot when he was playing through the CHL into the OHL, when he was playing Sudbury and he was playing with Sarnia and stuff. And I think the scouting report for a lot of people on a guy like Michael Pizzetta, even when he got into the pros, whether it was with Laval or with Montreal, and then even over to the Marlies, is, not the best hockey player in the world. And I don't say that with any disrespect to Pizzetta. I want to be very, very clear on that. More so what I mean is he's not the most talented guy. He's not the most skilled player. But to your point, Chris, one thing that he does bring to the table is a lot of energy. And I think the thing that is very notably missing from this team is that energy component. And you brought up your Calle Yarncroaks. Even in a game like this, I think it was lacking from a guy like Steven Lorentz, who I think you'd expect a little bit more from. And you look at what the Senators are going to bring to the table and where they're at in their race to the playoffs and their push to grab a playoff spot, you have to understand that they're going to bring it. They're going to bring it at home. They're going to bring it based on where they're at. You put Pizzetta out there for the warm-ups, and then you just don't play him. And then what do I talk about to open up most of the show here tonight for the first 35, 40 minutes? A lack of energy, a lack of intensity, a lack of pushback, an inability to forecheck effectively. All of those things Pizzetta can at least minimum bring to the table. And I'm not trying to say that Pizzetta should be in the lineup to help you win games, or to be in the lineup for next season as a guy who's going to be like some game breaker and he's going to change the way things are played. But, I keep looking at this group and thinking they don't have balls. They don't have any pride. They don't have any dignity. You're looking at a guy like Michael Pizzetta, who is from the area. He loved the Toronto Maple Leafs as a kid. He dreamed of playing for this team. He dreams of playing in your Leafs Habs games, your Leafs Sens games. He dies for that opportunity. And yet you can't find a spot for him in the lineup over a Calle Yarncroke, over a Steven Lorentz, and find a spot to fit him in here. That to me is just confusing. Does he bring enough to the table in terms of his 5-on-5 play? I get that the answer is probably no, but I don't understand, to your point, how he can't just look at him and say, we need some energy tonight. Here's a guy who will bring that to the table. Let's put him out there. I don't get why you can't look up Pizzetta and say, hey, let's get him in the lineup here.
I totally agree. He's not the be-all, end-all, but at least a guy like Pizzetta might take on a guy like Brady Tkachuk and kind of not put him in his place. He probably loses in a scrap, but at least he stands up to him and shows the guys on the team that he's willing to stand up. And, it all goes back to Tree living in the DNA change that's never, ever happened.
Yeah.
You got guys like Nylander who show up 50% of the time. Matthews is out with a knee injury because, we have no grit on the team. And I'm not saying that it's one guy or two guys, but we need, whether it be in the bottom six, we need guys that are willing to stand up and take the body hard and play hard. Every game, we don't see that. It's boring hockey. This game was really, really hard to watch.
Yeah, not just tonight, too. Last night's game against Carolina, Tuesday night's game against the Islanders, they're very difficult to watch. And, again, I agree with you. I'm not talking about Michael Pizzetta playing on this team to be a guy who changes everything for these guys or a bona fide NHL player, but you could have at least put a harder forecheck on them, and he would have been a guy who helps do that. He's a guy who can help bring energy to the table. I laid out my thoughts on the Tim Stützle situation where he goes to the net and Phil Myers, just does a little, hey, don't do that. Well,
Yeah.
maybe Michael Pezzetta stands in front of there and grabs the guy and says, that's not fucking happening again.
Yeah.
Maybe he goes down the other way and he gets in Ullmark's grill. Maybe he goes down the other way and he provides a spark or some light because he gets in a scrum. And, again, like, I don't think you are, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you and I are on the same page. I don't think you're doing this. I don't think I'm doing this. I don't think either of us right now are trying to put Pezzetta on this pedestal of, like, he's an NHL player. Why aren't you playing him? But to your point, the energy is missing. There's a very clear solution to having some energy in your lineup, and he just continues to not play him. And he skates for warm-up, Chris. I see Pezzetta's out there for warm-up. But nope, he can't be out there for the game tonight. It's just like, what the fuck are we doing?
But you miss the energy, and the energy will rub off on guys, you would assume.
Yeah.
Like Pezzetta against Anaheim, like he ran Lacombe into the corner boards, knocked the puck off him, made the puck loose. We got a goal out of the deal. And I'm not trying to, like I say, I totally agree with you. I'm not putting Pezzetta on a pedestal, but guys like that will rub off. Maybe Nyes. I know Nyes is playing hurt, and he's a lot better power forward than he's shown, but it's got to rub off on all the guys so that they all click in and they all do a little bit. I don't want to see Easton Cowan fighting. I don't want to see Morgan Riley fighting because they can't. But you know what? We have to have guys with the physicality and the strength to show that they can and, make it a team game. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's just disappointing and it's really boring hockey to watch. I miss the one Clark.
Yeah, fair enough. I was a little too young to experience some of that, but I've heard enough. I've seen enough of the highlights to completely understand what you're talking about. And I mean, again, just kind of final thing here, and I'll ask you some more of your thoughts on tonight's game. But just final thing for me on the situation is like, who's gonna have more intensity out there, Yarncroke or Pezzetta? Who's gonna have more intensity out there, Lorentz or Pezzetta? Absolutely. You're trying to bring that to the table in a game like this when things don't really matter and you're trying to show some pride. I think there's a easy solution for you, but I completely get where you're coming from, Chris. What else you got for me for tonight?
No, that's about it. I just really appreciate the show, and I think you're doing a great job. Keep up the
Thank
good
you,
work.
Chris. I appreciate that, and this was a great call. I hope to hear from you again in the future. So thank you very much for this, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Will do, Zach. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. There you go. Chris on the line. I thought that was a great call. Chris jumps in here, in and out, gives his thoughts, and jumps off the line. And to be clear, like, I know people in the chat are talking about, who cares about Pezzetta? Move on. He's a bum. Why do you care about Pezzetta? Why are we talking about Pezzetta? It's not so much about Pezzetta in a vacuum, and I think, again, not to put words in Chris's mouth here for it, but I think whether it was Pezzetta or some other guy who offers the same thing, it's going to be the same conversation. And it's not about the guy who can jump up here and change the dynamic of the team, but you probably want to play with some more pride down the stretch, and I think he's a guy who brings that to the table. And yet, Calle Yarncroke is a guy who goes out there. Steven Lorentz goes out there, and even Lorentz, who I have an affinity for, or give some respect and appreciation to, like, even he's kind of died down and tapered off for me, where he hasn't had that same level of passion and pride that I think we've seen for a while. So I agree with Chris on that, and I think that that's a guy you could easily look at and be like, well, here's a guy who can provide you some of that energy and some of that intensity. Let's go to our next caller here. He's waiting on the line. Let's welcome to the program, CeCe. What's up, CeCe?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Hi, Zach. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for calling in here tonight. What's up, CeCe?
I took some notes. It's going to be a quick call, but I just wanted to point something out that I think is like an overarching issue that everyone touches on, but I think is the most important, is that this organization has no rudder. I really do not believe that you will make any changes on the ice that will be permanent or long lasting if they don't have a president or a direction or a mission. It seems like MLSC has decided all their other teams are more important. And even though the Maple Leafs to me should be the primary focus, is now the bastard stepchild of the organization. How do you not have a president? I don't understand. And then something that I noticed that people didn't really talk about that I thought was a big deal earlier on in the season is, remember that story that came out in the Atlantic about how they fired their longtime athletic program director and basically like gutted that entire department, and that the Maple Leafs like for like 10 years were famously like the team that had the least amount of injuries and had the best amount of care. And then the year they fire him, the entire team just like ends up in the infirmary. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
Agreed.
Like, I don't think that if they had that guy there, that Nyes would be playing injured, that we would see like whatever's been going on with Matthews and his tape and his shoulder, and like Nylander, like this is the first time he even said it. He's never been injured before. This is the first season he gets injured. So like, how are like, I don't know. I think these players are worth a lot of money. How are you not like, why is protecting your investment not a bigger priority for this organization? So like, to me, that just shows the front office does not care. And if they don't care, everything else is falling apart. And like, I've worked for a shitty boss before. We all have worked for like shitty companies, and you show up and you do not care. It doesn't matter how much you're being paid. Like, you don't give a shit. And so I kind of, not that I'm team players, but if your front office isn't shit, your GM isn't shit, your coach doesn't even know what's going on, you're so obvious they're not talking to each other. Like, you go to work, the rumors are everybody in the building is miserable. Like, I don't want to play either. Like, I'm not gonna like, I don't know. So like, I can see how apathy has completely set in with them. And I don't want to play for you guys because I'm not proud of this building. I'm not proud of who I work for. Like, the history doesn't matter. Like, it's an excuse, but I get it,
Yeah. So two things. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. But
no, that's like that. Yeah. That was like my main point. Just like the office is falling off the rails. So the team has to.
Yeah. So two things I want to touch on here that you brought up. So first thing I want to touch on is the point that you brought up about I don't know how to like phrase it, but more so like the organizational structure. So the president and all that kind of stuff, I think, was an interesting thing that took place because in the previous era, we witnessed a situation where it became pretty public that like Dubas would want to make a trade. He has to go to Shanahan. Now Shanahan wants to make the trade. He goes to MLSE. MLSE has to approve or decline the trade, and then they bring it back to Shanahan, and then Shanahan brings it back to Dubas. Now by the time Dubas brings it back to said GM that he's negotiating some type of deal with, it may be too late, or they've gotten cold feet, or they want different prospects or pieces or whatever in the deal. And I think that the idea was, hey, we cut out the middleman. And I think that the approach to all of this and where I've gotten to right now and my thoughts on it, and you tell me if you agree with this or not, but on the president situation is that it should never have been a process of goes from, let's throw this as an example, right? It goes from the GM of the Flames, he's making a trade with Dubas, and Dubas accepts the trade or wants the trade, and then he takes it to the next guy, and that guy approves it. Now he's got to take it to the next guy, and that guy approves it. That lady approves it, and then they bring it back down, and they bring it to Shanahan, and Shanahan brings it to Dubas. It shouldn't have been that. It should have been a collaboration, and it should have been voices in the room who can collaborate on said deal. Dubas wants to make a trade. He's in the room with other presidents and GMs and other people who can approve of those things or tell him, I don't like this, or I like this, or let's go in this direction in real time rather than a ladder and a chain of command. It should have more so been voices who can help you with the direction in real time. That's kind of my thought on it. And I think it's a fair point to bringing up, hey, a president should be here to help bring back the rudder, as you said there, rudderless. It feels like it's tree living at times, knowing or thinking, I want to go in this direction, I want to go in this direction, I want to go in this direction. And MLSE's kind of sitting there being like, we don't know fuck all about hockey. Our president came from running a media company and golf. So if you think it's good, I guess it's good. And now all of a sudden we're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. To the next point. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Jump in on that.
Yeah, no, to jump in on the tree living thing. Also, all the rumors that came out that he's a pain in the ass to deal with. That all of the GMs don't like dealing with him because it's like 2 weeks to get a decision out of him. So like, yeah, maybe there need to be more people in the room that actually have authority to pull the trigger on things when he's hemming and hawing and losing trades, like running up to the deadline because he waited too long to call people back. Like, that's really embarrassing. That's another thing that shows like the front office genuinely does not have any idea, or like they don't understand hockey. Because like you notice, like, why are you going? Why is there a 10 chain of command to make a decision? Hockey moves quickly. These trades, you know what I'm saying? People change their minds. Someone could have anyway. Why am I telling you about hockey? But like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's fair.
It's
embarrassing.
Understand. This is a multi-billion-dollar company, and you can't get a decision done under the deadline. And then like, so after the fact, it's found out like these trades fell through because you couldn't make a decision. And I don't know. So yeah, so that's on the tree living part. So the organization just doesn't know what they're doing, and the man that they have in charge doesn't actually. What was the thing that that Quinn Hughes said? Like he can't nut up for decisions.
Oh yeah,
or whatever. Like you know. Like,
I think he said he couldn't sack up to pull the trigger.
Sack up to pull the trigger, exactly. So like we need a little bit of Garen energy over here. Like we need people to be a little bit more aggressive, and it's like really sad that the front offices can't be. So yeah, that was like my main points.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing I want to touch on these with you before, unless you have anything else. But the other things that you brought up, and I want to kind of go back and forth on some of these. One was the point that you brought up about the medical staff, and I don't really have too much to add to what you said. I think what you laid out was pretty bang on, and the fact that they took out, I think his title was the director of sports science, and they took him out of the picture. He leaves, he goes to Pittsburgh, and the pushback that True Living gave, he did the radio hit on TSN, and he went on there immediately trying to put out the fire, and he said, "Oh no, we have a director of sports science." Let me just lay out for you, and I don't know what your knowledge of the situation is, not trying to diminish anything here, but just even for people in the chat who don't know what happens is, I have friends and know people who work at the organization, and I know that they may not love hearing this, MLSE may not love hearing this, but right now they're in an era of very cutting corners and cutting costs in what they're doing and how they're operating. You know, I know that the way that they've run some of their departments, even outside of hockey, has very much been cut this person out, cut that person out, promote somebody to be in a role that maybe they're not necessarily qualified for. And that's not a disrespect to the person, but it's just them saving face by saying, we're going to pay the same amount. We're going to pay a similar amount at least. We're going to cut some of these other people out of the situation. And we're just going to bring other people into the fold and say, hey, you know what? We didn't have a director of marketing, a director of sports science. Now you're it. Because we've cut that person out, and we're going to keep the team together that we had. We're going to keep it smaller, and you're going to be the person. By all accounts, that's kind of what happened with the director of sports science role here in Toronto, as far as I understand. To be completely transparent with people, is that, do they have a director of sports science? Yeah, probably. Was he somebody who was qualified for the role? Probably not. And I don't mean to disparage the person who's currently in that role, but to your point, the Nylander situation.
I mean, you don't need to. I will. Your team is falling apart, and they famously didn't used to fall apart the way they did before he got fired. And now he's out getting and patching together the old guys playing in Pittsburgh. Like, you know, Crosby's back after 4 weeks. I don't think that's a coincidence that they have a new director. Like, anyway, like I'm about to get
it's fair.
Angry.
You can get angry.
I'm like, you have so much money. There's no excuse. And then apparently there's other departments that are completely bloated with people that just don't need these positions. And you should really be focusing like, you need if your on ice product is falling apart and people are complaining the tickets are too expensive and the atmosphere is dead and just what is going on? They don't know. And that's why I'm saying, like, go ahead and keep talking about who you want to trade. Like, actually, that's another point. Speaking of trades, who wants to come and play for this team? Like you guys brought it up. If I'm a young guy and I'm like a UFA or I'm like coming out of the NCAA and I'm thinking about who I want to like jump on their AHL team and see if I might get a chance, I'm never going to go play for the Maple Leafs because I'm going to get 5 seconds, get traded, and then become famous elsewhere. Like, actually, maybe that is the route. The route is to join the Maple Leafs and get traded because everybody will think you're a good luck charm because whoever gets traded apparently is actually a really good player. So, to all the bums out there, go play for the Maple Leafs. You'll get picked up by a good team. The next thing you know, you win a cup. Like, no, if Boston wins a cup. Okay, anyway, sorry, I'm
go
really
for it.
about hockey.
Go for it.
So,
Go for it.
I'm about to like go on a tangent. I wrote notes so that I wouldn't get distracted, but now ADHD has taken over, and now I'm just.
What do you think happens on my whole show?
venting.
I take notes the whole game and then I just abandon them quickly. I completely get it.
Like, yeah. So I didn't even remember what we were talking about before I went on a rant about how bums should play for this team.
Well, no, I mean, to the point though that you made about like people coming here, I went back and forth myself. Like I had the rant myself about why would anybody want to come here, and then I came to the same conclusion you just did. They might just be looking, being like, well, I'll never play for the Maple Leafs because I'm not going to get any fucking chance to go there. But you know what? Everybody that seems to go through that program seems to find themselves on some other team. So maybe that's the way to do it. I kind of came to the same conclusion myself.
Like, it's not a bad business plan.
Apparently,
like
looking out for yourself.
And for like GMs out there trying to make a name for themselves, like this is a team open to be fleeced because apparently, again, the front office has no idea what they're doing. I no offense to their scouting team, but you have no grasp of your talent. And I think also, who was it? I think it was Friedman who said that other teams like scout out the Maple Leafs a lot and seem to really understand what the Maple Leafs have, and that's how they get away with these fleeces. So like again, you have the entire league making fun of you, taking advantage of you, picking off your players are falling apart, you're selling off parts of the stadium for chump change. It's and like I think that's why I was okay. Everyone was making fun of like fan day. I think that was okay. Give the kids a chance. They can't afford to get in there anyway on a regular day. So like, $30 ticket for some Simon Says is fine. Like it's the least. And then also they suck. It's the least they could do. Have a little fun. I love a dog on ice. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a circus. Like, these are my monkeys. Might as well enjoy it.
Well, okay, let me just jump on that because I think I'm going to be the forefront of the you're an idiot for complaining about Fan Day. I'm not complaining about Fan Day. I want to make that fair. I don't know if you saw the clip or saw me have my moment about Fan Day. I don't have an issue with Fan Day. I think they probably shouldn't have done Simon Says was my issue. Do a million other things. Do your dog races. Do the dog and pony show. I'm good with all of it. Simon Says, of all things, was probably the one we could have skipped. I don't know if you caught it on social media last night or how many other people did.
Yeah.
The Canes
Simon
put out a
says you
tweet.
lose. Yep,
Yes, and it's all the
And I was
Maple Leafs with their hands in the air, and I'm like, well, this is what we fucking set ourselves up for.
Yep.
Yeah. But I agree with you on Fan Day. I agree with you on having the kids in there.
It's been a miserable hockey experience. At least you're in there and you're having some fun. At least the organization like figured out that this is going to be a sad stretch. Yeah. Let's give them something.
Just don't do Simon Says. Just don't do Simon Says.
And then also,
that's the one I could have done without.
Joe, I think isn't he retiring soon? Like, let him just be down there having fun with people. I think that was perfectly fine. That's something. But everything else is just like basically the conclusion of this call is MLSE needs to. It's called MLSE, but they need to let go of the Maple Leafs. Like I need an owner who actually cares about the team. We need a radical person who's absolutely obsessed. Mm-hmm. Like owners who are like, I dreamt my whole life of like, you need someone who's genuinely obsessed about being the owner of just the Maple Leafs and dedicating themselves to putting like this whole ship back on track.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, a very good point. And I'll point to two examples. I'll just quickly point to two examples.
Go ahead.
Look at Vegas and the ownership group that they have there with Bill Foley, and look at Tom Dundon in Carolina. Both of those guys come in. Obviously, Vegas is a new team, and he buys that expansion franchise. And then Tom Dundon in Carolina comes in later, and we know that he sold off part of it, but he's still the majority owner of the Carolina Hurricanes. But it's an individual, as you've kind of pointed out here, somebody who cares. Bill Foley will do anything and everything for the Vegas Golden Knights to win. That's why he'll spend the money. That's why they'll buy out players. That's why they'll send contracts everywhere. That's why they'll fire coaches if they have to. He doesn't care. It's a similar to an extent situation in Carolina with Tom Dunnan. He's obviously going to be conscientious. Oh my God. Conscientious, thank you, of what happens with the money that's being spent in the organization. But at the same time, he knows if Eric Tulsky tells me this is what we need to do to win, he's going to do that, and he's going to pay the price to get said player from the KHL, the AHL, the CHL, the NCAA, whatever it is. He's going to pay the price to bring in the sports science teams, the scouts, whatever, to make the team better. The Maple Leafs here, they seem to be in a money-making business.
In Gary Bettman's ass, like, did you hear about the little stuff coming out of the GM meetings? Like, he's
Yes.
not afraid to stand up for his team. He's not afraid to stand up for, like, you know what I'm saying? Quite frankly, if these people only care about money, he's not afraid to protect his investment. And same with the GM and the coach. Like, they get it, and you can tell there's passion there. Like,
yeah,
Vegas has more money than they know what to do with, but he is clearly very passionate and he wants to win, and he's aggressive in his own way. You can see, you know, it's refreshing to see organizations actually care and to be cutthroat and to do whatever it takes because they want to win. And they also, like, bad example, even because it's a corporate group, but I even like the ownership over at Utah. Like, they care. They like, I haven't heard the scuttlebutt out of there is the players love it. The organization treats them really, really well. Like, so they're young, they're figuring it out, but they care. You can just smell the corporate, even through the TV when you're watching them. And I couldn't imagine what it must be like to be in that building.
The thing that made me sick, CeCe, was the Vegas game when they had a Marner signed Vegas jersey on display in the lower bowl. That was the one that blew my brain. Like, I was like, "You're kidding me! This is what we're putting on the ice."
Like,
this
were
is
you
the
not
product
following the media circus leading up to this game? The articles, the questions, I'm not going to answer any more questions about that. Like, just the drama. And you understand that this is contentious, and you understand that genuine Maple Leaf fans hate him, and you're gonna sell the technically quote unquote rival jersey in the okay, no respect. It's all about money, like, and it's not even a good spend of money. Did anybody buy it? Like, just you. Sorry. You could have sold like a vintage of when he used to play, or maybe like his rookie jersey if you really wanted to be scummy, or a collection of like I'm sure they have a puck lying around from when he used to play. Like,
a
you
stick.
Could have done something, right? Like, tie it back to his freshman year, or this is the cap he wore during his draft night, whatever the fuck. It would have been fine, and it would have made sense because it's Maple Leaf attached, like Maple Leaf history. But Vegas that gold, ugly, tacky jersey. I'm sorry. It was a mess. It was a mess. But that shows you how much MLSE doesn't get it. Like, they don't get the atmosphere. They don't get the pulse of the fandom. Do they follow the news? They know enough when it's like, it feels like a hit piece that they're going to trot Brad out. Or, like, has that man with his stupid glasses said anything all season? Have we heard from Pelly yet? Or is he just, like, running around in golf shorts? Like, so anyway, we need new owners. I am good luck, everybody. I'm going to get off now because I'm getting really hot. I'm going to go open a beer. Probably going to roll up a J. So anyway, good luck, everybody. Have a good night. This was a great call. I listen. I'm there in the mornings. I'm here. I'm not going to tell you what my YouTube is. Like, I lurk around, but I might call back. Good luck, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, CeCe. Appreciate the call. There you go. CeCe with a very animated and energetic call here that a lot of people in the chat were saying CeCe was going to take my job. And to be honest with you, based on how that call went, I could see that taking place. The intensity, the passion that CeCe brought, that's exactly what we're looking for here on Leaf Station After Dark from the callers. So I hope CeCe does call again. I did appreciate that. I appreciate what CeCe brought to the table. So thank you for that call, CeCe. First one here on the After Dark show. So thank you to CeCe for that. And a lot of points that I honestly agreed with from CeCe there as well. There's really nothing that I could have pushed back on in general, I did agree and respect a lot of what she was having to say about this team and the thoughts on this group. So hopefully CeCe comes back here in the future. Cowboy Marshall says best call ever. There you go. I mean, that was an unreal call. So thank you to CeCe for that. Enjoy your beer, enjoy your joint, enjoy the rest of your night, CeCe. With that, I've got a couple more things to get to before we wrap up this show here tonight. Let's start with the play of the game. Okay, play of the game for me. Play of the game. I think my play of the game is going to be the Cowan dish to Tavares. Just the play he made to the inside, the fact that he's picking up points here tonight. 2-point game for Easton Cowan, playing 18 minutes, given more opportunity from Berube, elevated up onto that line. I know he was playing with Tavares initially. Him, Tavares, and Robertson, but then moving Nylander into that role, I think it just gives him an opportunity to kind of get more experience playing with people higher up in the lineup, playing with some better players on this group. So I did enjoy that. Joseph Woll had himself a little bit of a tough night here. I'm not going to lie to you guys, so I'm not going to really have too much for Joseph Woll on this one. The hit that OEL laid, I'm not saying this because the guy got injured. It's more so because of what OEL did leading up to that play. It's puck in the corner, chase your puck down, harden on the forecheck, finish your check, and you do end up injuring the Sens player on that one. But that's not the play of the game, is that the guy got injured, but it's the intensity that's brought from the forecheck. It's the fact that it made the defenseman's life uncomfortable. It's the fact that he gets in on him quick. He doesn't die on the play. He doesn't give up on the play, and he goes in there and finishes the check. And it's an unfortunate situation where the guy does end up getting hurt, and you don't wish that upon anybody. I probably myself would assume, I'm not a doctor, but I would assume, some type of separated shoulder or broken collarbone thing that ends up dislocating shoulder, that ends up taking place on that hit. But the point is more so that you get in there, you finish checks, you get in on guys hard, you close out their time and space, you make their life uncomfortable, you make them have to force passes that can turn into turnovers, that can give you opportunities. That's what the OEL hit generated on that play. It made it an uncomfortable breakout for the Senators. The fact that the guy ends up injured is an unfortunate set of circumstances for the Sens and just in general in terms of what we watch as hockey fans, but that was... It's tough, it's a tough result, but it's a good process, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here by Oliver Ekman-Larsson to get the puck in, finish the check, close out time and space. And if you continue things like that, it makes guys think twice when they go back into the corner and have to recognize we do have real pressure and not just a guy coming in with his hands up like this. They're going to put it on your back and just guide you in because, oh no, they don't want to make your life hard, or they're not going to get to you on that forecheck because they're just not in there. So I get what people are saying. That's their play of the game. I'm not going to give it any credit for the injury itself, but just the intensity and passion OEL plays with, and the fact that a defenseman had to be the guy who's in hard on a forecheck to close out a play is a little bit frustrating on its own. With that, let's go to our grade of the game. So I'm curious what you guys are thinking about this one, but grade of the game tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think from the standpoint of not getting any points and losing in reg, you're probably at a A+, I guess, is where you're at. You lost in reg. It was never really close other than the 2-goal pushback. Hey, we gave it a little bit of an effort and we fell short. So I guess from that standpoint, sure, that's a positive. But outside of that, the actual performance that was put forth is like a D- for these guys. So that to me is frustrating. I see some people in the chat here asking me to review Berube's comments. So let me just take a look here. See if anybody's tweeted anything out. I don't see any quotes from Berube right now, so I'm gonna continue to look here. 1 second. Let's see if anybody else has tweeted anything. Berube says Stolarz is meeting the team at the plane heading back home to Toronto. So he's out of hospital but doesn't know what that means for his status. Okay. I hope for the best for Anthony Stolarz, but don't know the status of his situation right now. There was no other quotes that I've seen so far out of Craig Berube here tonight. The only other thing that I wanted to say was the comments that were made about Mitch Marner here tonight, and how there were chants about "you need Marner" that were ringing through the Canadian Tire Center out there. I think it's kind of funny, to be honest. This is going to be my pettiness coming through, but I think it's kind of funny that the Vegas Golden Knights, who currently sit 5 points ahead of the Toronto Maple Leafs and are clinging onto a playoff spot with their dear lives, are in any situation for any fan base to be saying you need Marner. There's a team that added Mitch Marner to their lineup and is still barely hanging on to one and is still barely ahead of the Maple Leafs. They in fact would be 8 points out of a playoff spot if they were in the Eastern Conference. So that on its own is pretty funny. And credit to Sens fans for coming up with something creative. Credit for Sens fans for actually even being in the building at all. But, it's kind of funny that they're out there chanting, you need Marner, when you could easily say, you need the playoffs or you need fans in the stands when their building isn't full yet again during a playoff push on a Saturday night. And, that's right. They're probably going to miss the playoffs. So maybe you should focus on your own team before focusing on others. Credit to them for coming up with some type of chant in general. But in terms of you need Marner, I think it's a little overblown. With that, let's go to our final segment of the night here tonight. It's something that we've been doing on every single post-game show over the last little while, and we will do the rest of the way as we continue to close out this season. Let's head on over to Tankathon.com to see what we're working with for the 2026 draft lottery. Ladies and gentlemen, where the Maple Leafs currently sit, they are in 7th. They are handing their pick to the Boston Bruins if all things finish as they currently sit right now. They have 71 points. They are technically 3 back, if you want to look at it this way, of the Winnipeg Jets. They are 4 back of the Blues. They are 7 back of the Rangers and the Blackhawks. They're 8 back of the Calgary Flames, who have the second best odds, and they are out of reach, 21 points back of the Vancouver Canucks to get that first overall pick. That, in general, is just an unfortunate set of circumstances. But, that's why last night not picking up a point would have probably been better. You finish right now at 70 points. Now you're only 2 back of the Winnipeg Jets. You're 3 back of the St. Louis Blues, but that's not the case. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, with the chance of changing the future of this organization at this year's draft alone, and just doing it here this season and getting into June and saying, you know what, maybe things can be different. A positive spin at the draft lottery could be all we need to get a Gavin McKenna, a Ivar Stenberg, or a Keaton Verhoff, or a Caleb Malhotra, but that comes at the hands of the lottery balls. So, with that, let's get to the lottery. 1 spin. Everybody knows the rules. Let's do it. The Maple Leafs drop 2 spots to 9th. They give their pick to the Boston Bruins. The Jets drop 2. The Blues drop 2. The Rangers, the Blackhawks, the Flames, and the Canucks all drop 2. The goddamn fucking Florida Panthers move up 7, and so do the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken get the first overall pick. The Panthers take 2nd. The Canucks down to 3rd. That is how your 2026 NHL Draft Lottery shapes out here tonight, folks. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for commenting. Appreciate you guys for being a part of the show here tonight. I can't do this without you guys on a nightly basis, so thank you for the participation. That is all for me. You guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday nights. I believe we are back. Let me just double check. I think we're back Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, so I'm just double checking the calendar here right now. But yes, Tuesday, the Maple Leafs play against the Boston Bruins, and then Wednesday, the Leafs play against the Rangers here at Scotiabank in Toronto. So that is how your next week shapes up. I will see you guys back here on Tuesday for a game preview and another edition of the postgame show for another edition of Leafs Nation After Dark. If you guys prefer to listen on podcasts, check us out on TLN After Dark, wherever you get your podcasts. But in the meantime, while you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the Leafs Leafs Nation 401. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate all of you. Appreciate the callers here tonight, whether it was Chris or CeCe, whether it was you guys in the chat. I will be back here on Tuesday. Until then, I guess, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything.